Back on the news hour, we continue our focus on bringing you explosive details of the supplementary charge sheet filed in the Sheena Bora murder case. But first, on August 2015, Times Now was the first channel to expose the massive flip-flops from Peter Mukherjea. In his 30-minute interview with our editor-in-chief Arnab Goswami, Peter played the naive in-love husband, lied about Sheena Bora and changed his narrative more than once.
Well, tonight, that tape is the clincher. It's being used by the CBI in its investigation as evidence to nail Peter Mukherjea. Here are those flip-flops from that sensational interview that's tonight exposed. Peter Mukherjea.
The news that I'm getting about the kind of crime that has been committed is something that, I would not have expected in a million years.
In my relationship with my wife, I believe my wife 9.9 times out of 10. If I would go as far as saying 10 times out of 10, unless I am proven or it is proven that she is wrong.
I was told that by Indrani that Sheena is his sister, and Sheena maintained that. So Sheena has never told me that she was a daughter.
Sheena had told me that, Jiju, and she used to call me Jiju, in fact, and she said, Jiju, this is not correct. Indrani has given you, wrong information, and you please believe me, and told me that in so many words.
Believe me in
that I'm not her sister, but I'm actually her mother. I'm actually her daughter.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And as we break down the charge sheet and expose the flip-flops one by one and bringing you details of that interview which is being used by the CBI as evidence, joining us on this part of the discussion on the news are Mrinalini Deshmukh, senior advocate, joining us live from Mumbai this evening. Sujay Kantawala, senior lawyer, also live from Mumbai in our studios. Shovik Badra, partner, Ashler Law, live from Kolkata this evening. Siddharth Luthra, senior advocate, Supreme Court, joining us live from Delhi, and Simi Chandok, editor-in-chief, Lifestyle and Society, Zoom TV, in our studios here in Mumbai. To you first, Mrinalini, when you saw that tape on the 26th of August 2015, when the story broke, the narrative of a man called Peter Mukherjea changed 24 hours later in an interview with Arnab Goswami. Now, that is being used as evidence by the CBI in its charge sheet and the investigation. Your observation when you looked at that, when you heard that tape, and when you look at the charge sheet today?
Well, the interview that was there, and in fact, at that particular time, we were there at 9 o'clock on the show, and we were trying to, sort of see through the whole thing. Obviously, that interview was projected to be very, very naive, very, very somebody besotted and in love and did not completely believe, and he was completely away from all these things. But ultimately, the inconsistencies that were there in those things, and which is what has become a clincher now, and the supplementary charge sheet which is now being presented by the CBI, I think the writing is clear on the wall. I don't see there is anything else that we really need to get into the whole thing. Of course, the prosecution will have to prove the case. Of course, the prosecution will have to follow the due process of law that is required in this case. But obviously, we're talking about some things that is strengthening the hands of the prosecution. And I think this is one such thing, in my opinion.
Sujay, is there a clear-cut case for you?
A 24-year-old has been murdered in cold blood by two 40-year-olds possibly, and now that is all coming out. So knowledge, intention and purpose, and these flip-flops, they are all materials which are going to aid the CBI and the prosecutor in driving home the case, and the role of the prosecutor becomes much easier because the prosecutor basically is an officer of the court, and all he has to do is marshal the evidence and prove. He is not meant to secure a conviction. It's ultimately the judge. So tomorrow, when the matter is kept, I believe that with the materials on record, the framing of charge should not be much of a difficulty.
Yeah, so quickly let's go to the...
I have to say,
okay,
Niranjan, I have to say that the views here are quite diametrically opposite to what we saw at 9 o'clock, with a lot of our guests on the 9 o'clock panel believing that it's really not a very strong case. Well, it does look like a very clear picture is emerging, and before we start going through some of the angles that we are presenting to our viewers tonight, let's also get the first comments in from Shovik Badra and Siddharth Luthra. Siddharth Luthra, coming to you, just on Peter Mukherjea, it's become very, very clear now, whether it's from his own flip-flops, whether whether it's from that interview which the CBI has also quoted in the charge sheet, or whether it's from Shamvar Rai's statement, which we have discussed in detail earlier on the show tonight, it's very clear Peter Mukherjee was involved right from the start, is it not?
I'll tell you, it's a case of circumstantial evidence. We have two kinds of cases. This is not a case of ocular eyewitness evidence. In a circumstantial evidence case, there are a number of circumstances which the CBI has gathered, and the falsity of stand by Peter Mukherjee, the false disclosure to his son, the false disclosure on the interview, all of those are incriminating circumstances, and they will add in the chain which will be taken forward to try and prove his guilt. That being said, we must remember that right now the supplementary charge sheet has been filed. There is a court which has to look into the matter to determine whether a formal allegation charge is to be framed. Peter will have an opportunity to say there is no allegation which forms a charge. The prosecutor will say there's a charge. And if the court feels that there is enough material to proceed forward, relying, or the court believes the CBI's material to be true at this stage, which it's supposed to, the court can then consider to take this matter to trial. This is a conspiracy case. Therefore, in a circumstantial conspiracy case, once the CBI joins the links together, joins the dots together, it may be enough to at least take it to the stage of framing of charge, and then of course the evidence will be determined at the appropriate stage.
Yeah, so Shawik Bhadra, very quickly, do you feel the dots are getting joined here? As you know, as we look at the details that have emerged in this supplementary charge sheet, various angles, whether it's the emails, whether it's the phone calls, whether it's the statements from Mikhail Bora and Shamvar Rai, do you think the dots are getting linked here?
I must admit I have not read the charge sheet, and I would be cautious before drawing any conclusion, because firstly that's not my job. There is a proper judicial procedure to be followed before any conclusion can be reached. From information that I have seen on your television, other media, it seems that there are flip-flops, there are a lot of confusion about the evidence that we have seen. And
there's no flip-flop.
Assuming that the CBI...
Shawik, there's no flip-flop. If anything, there are more details emerging, but there is no flip-flop. Very pertinent to note at this point, only because you haven't seen the charge sheet. What we're doing in this Newshour broadcast is that we've broken down the charge sheet into 6 parts, and we've broken down the details of the statements. We've shown that in the beginning of the Newshour. I'm just going to bring some more facts to this discussion, so we take this discussion forward in a organized manner. Angle 3 that we are going to talk about, we spoke about the 2 angles, Tina. Angle 3 is the do not contact list. And I'm just bringing our viewers details of that mention in the charge sheet. And listen to it carefully, Sujay Kantawala. Further investigation disclosed that email dated 19th of June 2012 sent by Peter Mukherjee to Rahul Mukherjee states that, and I quote, "Please therefore put the following people on your list of people you should now not be in contact with, either you to them or them to you." Note the date, June 19th, 2012, 2 months after she's been killed. And these are the members Rahul says don't keep in touch with. Rahul has been told not to keep in touch with. 1. Sheena's family members in Guwahati. 2. Mikhail Bora. 3. Sheena's father. 4. Sanjana or Kansuk. 5. Pranami. 6. Anyone that may be known to Sheena, friends. And this is him typing this out. Or ex-work colleagues. Why would a father ask the son not to be in touch with his girlfriend's own family members?
Extremely strange, and that points out to the culpability, because the law sees what a reasonable man would do in a particular circumstance. And here, the way he is acting, clearly the knowledge, intention and purpose is evident. Which father would tell his son to isolate himself so that these people would not in any way contact him? And once he is isolated and listens to his father, all his legs are cut off for any source of information. So therefore, this clearly points out to Peter's role.
And remember, Times Now, Tina, Times Now brought those tapes. I think there were about 19 tapes, 230 minutes of conversations that brought out details of what Peter told Rahul. And if you heard most of those calls, I think Nalini was also there. Most of those calls, what did Peter do? He was trying to tell Rahul, son, let it go. Son, let it be. He was
back off.
Back off.
Let it go for a workout, go for a shower, all these kind of things.
But But isn't that strange? You know, Simi, let's get you in on this. Isn't that bizarre? As Niranjan said, yes, there are all those minutes, hundreds of minutes of conversations where the only thing that comes through is basically Peter Mukherjee telling Rahul, let it go, back off, forget her, she's not coming back, why are you so hung up on her? And then look at this email. Isn't this just bizarre? Which father writes an email to his son, puts out a list of do not contact people? What does that even mean? Why would anybody do that?
And I can still understand if he had mentioned just a name or two, you know, where he was really concerned about Rahul being disturbed or, you know, emotionally going through a turmoil or whatever. But to draw out a list of so many people who are connected to Sheena and can unearth this for Rahul, that itself is very, very bizarre.
So would it strengthen, I would believe, the prosecution's theory that it was a premeditated, you know, cold sort of murder that they had planned outside? Because I mean, I would really wonder, why would somebody write an email to that effect? Only I think this will only strengthen the prosecution. I mean, that's all that I can say.
Comes in. 120B conspiracy comes in, and it's staring at us, all of us.
Well, he could be charged with abetment. Effectively looking at the case that's been made out by the CBI. Siddharth Luthra, I want to bring you in at this point because you spoke about the circumstantial evidence. Another part of the charge sheet, I'm just going to read out a couple of mails as we sort of, you know, bring details to the table as we take this discussion forward. Further investigation has also disclosed that after her disappearance, Rahul, in an email dated 19th of June 2012, the same day that he was asked not to get in touch with people, he sent that mail to Sheena. In fact, Rahul sent a mail to Sheena on that day because till now he doesn't know where Sheena is and he's still looking for her. So in one of those desperate attempts, he's sent a mail to Sheena. And he says, I don't know what the heck is going on. People are still calling me with their worry. P and I. When he says P and I, he's talking about Peter and Indrani are still giving me bakwas and warning me. Hear this, Siddharth Luthra, he says, and warning me about being shot or beaten up. Is this circumstantial evidence or not?
I must tell you, the conversations, that is the emails. Secondly, the proximity of calls between Peter and Indrani during that period, especially about the period when the offence took place. The fact of a falsity of stand of Peter, both with Rahul and thereafter when he was interviewed, and the other elements which will form the circumstances must all form a chain. The CBI believes on the supplementary charge sheet that there is a chain. If so, that chain has to now be tested by the court, and therefore that's the stage where this adjudication is to take place. As an earlier speaker said, we can as lawyers analyze it and say it appears to be a case of conspiracy, it appears to be a case of abetment, and it appears to be a case where Peter had the knowledge about the offence. But it's joining the dots which will take place in court, and that's where the real tussle and the test is going to take place.
And Shobik Batra, you spoke about flip-flops. If I'm correct, I think in the beginning you said, you know, if I look at what's happening, you know, a lot of flip-flops emerging. If there are flip-flops emerging this evening, that flip-flop is from one person in this case, and that person is Peter Mukherjee. It's not the driver. You can't say the driver is speaking out in batches, so you can't really take him seriously. If there are flip-flops today, you look at the case. If you've tracked the case over the last 15 months, flip-flop is from one man. That man is Peter Mukherjee.
Small point. I think you mentioned that the email was sent by Peter after 2 months. Why would a reasonable person who has probably been involved in the murder would wait for 2 months to prevent his son from contacting the people who might, you know, give out that entire case?
No, I don't know. I think you missed the earlier part of the breaking.
To get his son to back off have not worked until then, Shobik Batra. It's very clear. The entire chain is established. The whole consequences are established. You know, he kept trying to tell Rahul by phone, in person. There are so many incidents and events which have led up to this email. So it's not as if he was sitting around doing nothing for those 2 months. He was trying very actively to dissuade Rahul from seeking out where Sheena has disappeared to. But because none of his endeavors were working, he's finally resorted to this absolutely bizarre email of no contact list and, you know, various other things that he was doing. It's not something that's in isolation. It's a series of events that took place.
Absolutely. I'm saying we cannot only rely on that email, since you mentioned that. Obviously, if there is a chain which has been established, depending on what other evidence is there, then yes, that builds up the case.
And that's what normally human beings do when they are falling into desperate situations.
And Shoaik Batra, I think you missed the earlier part of the news break when the tapes came out. When the tapes came out, you can hear a desperate Rahul losing his patience with his father. So all of that is now in the past when he writes this email.
Saying, come on dad, come on dad, come on dad. And that Peter is trying to fob him off, giving him and some kind of a feeble answer here and there. Indrani also participates in that. Indrani also participates in that. I mean, when some guy is anguished about his girlfriend missing, you say she has gone on a flight with some rich businessman, go for a Shah, go for a workout. Does a father talk to his son like this?
No, but tell me one thing, the very fact that he's sending emails, giving all these documentary evidences, as one would put it in a court of law, was he overconfident about the fact that this still will never be unearthed? I think that raises a very important point, because anybody who commits a crime, let's say alleged crime, at that point of time, why would somebody leave any kind of documentary evidences to join the dots together? So was there some kind of overconfidence, or was there some kind of comfort given by some sources that nothing will be unearthed? And please
I think that's a really, really interesting point that you raised, Mrinalini. Absolutely. And also because we've known from the beginning that there was obviously some botch up right at the start. Why was there such a long gap between when the murder took place and when the body was actually discovered? The circumstances under which Shamar Rai was in fact arrested. So yes, there are some very big questions on this case, and I think you make a really valid point. Why were Peter Mukherjea and Indrani so confident, if they were indeed, behind this murder? Why were they so confident of never getting caught that they left this kind of documentary evidence? Now, let's just bring in some more angles here, because as you all keep saying, the entire case is going to be built on not one particular piece of evidence in isolation, but everything that links up together. And even earlier on the show, we were talking about how Mikhail and his statement are extremely crucial. So there's a father exerting pressure on his son, which is Peter on Rahul. There's a mother exerting pressure on her daughter, which is Indrani on Sheena. But there's also Mikhail, who's extremely important. And we are getting you more details of this target Mikhail sort of plot. This is as per what we have seen in the CBI charge sheet. Mikhail was not just pressurized to separate his sister from Rahul, as we know that he was sent SMSs that you have to tell Sheena she must break up with Rahul. But there were attempts to kill him on more than one occasion. This is by his own admission. Mikhail told the CBI about an encounter with Sanjeev Khanna earlier, where he remembers having lost consciousness after having drinks with him one evening and ended up finding himself in a rehab. This is the reason the second time round, when Indrani was trying to ply him with drinks, he got terrified, because this has happened before. So, Mrinalini, what does this point to? If we go by Mikhail's statement, does this show us that there were repeated attempts to kill him and perhaps Sheena?
If not attempts, at least feelers must have been sent, or some kind of a pressure which was used. I would not use the word threats, because that's too severe a word, but some kind of feelers that, listen, you just zip up, otherwise you know what I'm going to do, or what are the likely consequences. So I think it leads to a very, very reasonable apprehension that there was some kind of fear that was instilled in the mind of Mikhail also. And who did it and why was it done? Probably the motive is not known. But obviously the feelers were definitely sent.
No, but it's there in the charge sheet, Mrinalini. It says, page 6 of the charge sheet talks about the pressure that was put on Mikhail was also to stop him from inquiring about Sheena. When he tried to find out from Indrani about Sheena's whereabouts, he was threatened by Indrani of his monthly financial help being cut off. I think you had a point there. Yes, Siddharth Luthra, yes.
Yeah, I think, this is another aspect of incriminating circumstances, but there's another angle which I'd like you to consider. You mentioned earlier that the local police did not do an effective investigation. You even said it may have been botched up. And the fact is there were doubts raised upon the state police investigation. Now, without commenting about it too much, the fact that there were doubts, the fact that this investigation was transferred to CBI, what would be interesting to see is whether the CBI has actually looked into the aspects of a defective investigation, and if so, who was responsible and why it was being done in such a manner by the state police. and why Rahul's request to the police went unneeded, why certain angles were not looked at by the state police.
Completely agree
These are
with you.
aspects which also need to be probed.
Yeah.
These are aspects which increasingly need to be probed in cases which are deemed high profile and which the state government often will put in the lap of the CBI only because they may want to perhaps either want effective investigation or alternatively really want to distance themselves from an investigation and put it to the CBI so the matter is out of their responsibility.
But that's one of the angles that has emerged. Yeah, Sujay, but just before you come in. Yeah.
The criminal justice system
And the police, there was an officer under investigation.
Yes, yes.
And there's a larger cover-up. Yes, there is a larger cover-up. You'll remember, Mr. Siddharth Luthra, that when we broke the story, when we got Peter Mukherjee's interview, there is one channel that always told you Peter knew all along, and that channel was Times Now.
That's right.
And we told you all along we've had enough number of debates on Peter Mukherjee and the fact that he knew. Well, what happened back then? We had pictures of Peter Mukherjee being very close to police officers. Yes, there is one version that he was close to police officers, and that's why the Mumbai police probe was not fully credible. It's been accepted by some officers on record and some off record, was handed over to CBI. So today, if you have more and more versions and more charge sheets being filed, that's only because there is more dirt and all of it is not out yet. Yes, Sujay, you want to make a point?
No, what I want to say is that that's the beauty of the criminal justice system and trial, that during the course of the trial, if certain facts come on record, the judge can always add or alter or amend the charge.
Yeah.
And therefore, the divine duty of a prosecutor comes. If the prosecutor comes across materials which are very, very important or germane to the trial, the prosecutor has to bring them on record. And therefore, then the court has to take cognizance and thereafter pursue that. Because the quest of the trial is to unearth the truth. And here is a girl who has been murdered, and therefore all the more it is the divine duty of the court, and I am 100% sure that the special court CBI, which is a strong court, will definitely look into these facts and fast track the trial.
Yeah, and just one more mail that I want to read out as we take this discussion forward. This mail was sent on the 28th of May 2012. This was roughly 1 month before the don't contact list mail went out. So in this mail sent by Rahul to Peter Mukherjee, he says, and I quote, this is what Rahul told his father. He said, "As I said, there is a simple solution. I'm done talking. You people are deceitful and dishonest, and I want nothing further to do with any of you. A father who told me that it doesn't matter what I do as long as I don't get caught is not really going to teach me anything positive." This is your response to a couple which thought would get away with the murder.
Absolutely. I think there was some kind of confidence that they had that this is never going to be unearthed. And otherwise, why would a father and a son send emails to each other? If you want to talk, you pick up the phone, you sit down, you're a father, you can do that. But I really don't know at what. I think Rahul had also at some point of time had switched off from the whole thing. He had sensed what the whole situation was, and he sensed that his father was a part of what the entire thing was there. I'm convinced about that fact.
Yes, Siddharth.
If I may just say, it's not about why they send their emails. People have their own relationships. But the fact is, today we have the benefit of these emails, which are relevant evidence. And therefore, from the point of view of the court, I think it is benefited by these emails, and it is benefited by all the other exchanges that took place and the voice recording which you mentioned.
Well, those were not the only.
I agree with you, Siddharth. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. In fact, they have
also,
given fodder to the
Niranjan,
prosecution. What I mean is that there's an easy, ready fodder for the prosecution. I was finding the whole thing a little strange, that these things which are there, I mean, I'm sure we do write emails to each other, but not when you're in the same city and not when, these things which are
when
there.
Mrinalini, as you're saying, it's not just the emails again in isolation. The fact that the emails are the kind of emails that they are, these very, very pressurizing sort of emails. In addition, there are those phone calls, and let's not forget, and Simi Chandok, the fact is that, clearly they were all under pressure. Whether it was Rahul, whether it was Sheena, whether it was Mikhail, let's not forget Vidhi also. I mean, for some reason, Vidhi was also being dissuaded from having any sort of contact with Sheena or with Rahul. Why would that happen? This is again from the charge sheet. The investigation has disclosed that Peter and Indrani also dissuaded Vidhi from having any contact with Rahul and Sheena, as revealed in an email again dated 18th 8 2012 sent by Vidhi to to Rahul. Again, now Vidhi, not directly involved with any of this. Why is she being told to stay away from Rahul and Sheena? Doesn't all of this just sound extremely strange?
You know, while it may come across that Peter Mukherjee was extremely confident, I think he was just, feeling secure that if at all this thing gets revealed, it's going to be Indrani who will get stuck, or probably her ex-husband who will get stuck with the murder. But if you look at the emails and you hear the conversations that have been played on Times Now in the last few months, I think it is actually fear that they might get caught, that insecurity that is making them try and intimidate Rahul and Indrani's son. So if you hear the tapes carefully and you listen to them, Indrani is worried at the back. She is getting to the conversations. Peter is hanging up in between wherever he is stuck with a question. So I don't think he was fearless there. I don't think he was completely confident there. If at all, he already had the fear that, listen, I am going to get caught. This might catch up with us. And that's why he was using every means he had to try and stop his son from being a pest in their lives.
Yeah, you spoke about Vidhi. There's another mail. Tina, just reading out that mail for our panelists. Vidhi wrote an email to Sheena Bora 1 year before the murder. This is in April 2011, 3rd April 2011, 1 year before the murder. She said, Sheena, I have been asked by my parents not to contact you till they ask me to do so. I have copied Papa on this mail so that everybody knows this. In future, please do not try to contact me by phone or email or copy me in any mails that you write to anyone. And I will only associate with people who my mum and dad feel I should. This mail is going out to you in consultation with my parents. Why did why did Peter and Indrani not want
I don't think she wrote the mail. It was probably Peter and Indrani who drafted it for her.
Yeah, but why
was
would
too young to be doing this, and she was just doing what she was told.
1 year before the murder.
Coming back to the control freak part, see, both of these people have checkered their careers on the basis of money power. And to save their money power and their empire, they would go to any extent. I am really surprised that Rahul has got away and he's still alive.
Absolutely.
Why isn't anybody questioning why Peter Mukherjee was going out of his way to transfer all the money to his adopted daughter, that is Vidhi, and not his biological children? If you think about it, because whether it was Sheena and Rahul, who if they got married would have got a major chunk in inheritance, and they could have disputed it because they were much older and they were working individuals, they were very independent, whereas Vidhi was a young teenager who Peter and Indrani could control. So I don't think there was a lot of love lost here. It was more about being able to control.
And to add to what Simi is saying, whichever child laps up to the parents and say, my papa best, is the blue-eyed boy. So it's ultimately the money. And the money will control everything.
Let's not forget that
but
she
also
was a
as it
teenager
was
who could be easily
suggested,
controlled.
we've seen through this entire case, there have been so many evidences of emails having been forged entirely, whether it was Sheena's own resignation letter. So there's absolutely no reason to believe that Vidhi, as someone pointed out just now, has actually written this email herself, because there are so many emails throughout the entire case that have emerged that, they were completely forged. But Niranjan, let's quickly start bringing out the last two angles, which again put together all the pieces of this jigsaw.
Yeah. Okay. Part.
I want to add something here for a moment.
Mr. Luthra, we'll just talk about this angle 5, and you want to take it further? You want to take it further? I'll just make the point to take it further.
I just have one point to say.
Sure. Go ahead. 30 seconds. Yeah.
We have changed how investigations happen, because today, as human beings, we write a lot more, we text a lot more. There are emails, there are electronic communications, and that is what normally unravels cases like this. And that's something which people have begun to do. So it's the nature of human conduct is something which is best shown in a case like this, where there are emails being written between father to son within the same city, and which are now coming home to trouble them.
Okay, we're looking at part 5, the angle 5 of the chart sheet. We're breaking down the chart sheet part by part. We brought you the first details this afternoon. This is the angle that tells you how the opposition to the Rahul-Sheena relationship has emerged as a critical angle, and there are several. Of course, we've been talking about the mails, how Peter Mukherjee was opposed to the relationship between Rahul and Sheena. But what this chart sheet only goes on to raise further questions on Peter's version. It raises questions on Peter's versions for several reasons, given the fact that Peter Mukherjee had told, remember, Arnab Goswami in that interview that it was Indrani who said that Sheena was unhappy in a relationship with Rahul. In that interview last year, Peter Mukherjee told Arnab it was Indrani who said that Sheena was unhappy in a relationship with Rahul at that point. And now, this charge sheet has an email of Peter after Sheena's murder in which he's peddling the theory that it is as in Rahul's interest, it's in Rahul's interest to break off the relationship with Sheena. So this is a direct contradictions, just one more of that contradiction, Tina.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, let's let's get our panelists in on these last 2 points that we're bringing forth. One, of course, is this relationship between Rahul and Sheena. And Mrinalini, let's come to you on that. Why does it seem, and there are so many various, whether it's emails or phone calls, as we've just discussed, it does seem that the real bone of contention here, for some reason, was this relationship between Rahul and Sheena. Why would that be? It couldn't possibly be motive alone for murder. Now, obviously, that relationship means something else, which is why Sheena was killed.
Yeah, it's very perplexing, really. Why should that relationship be, unless there is some, some property which was a Benami property which was standing in the name of Sheena, and this money originated obviously from Peter and Indrani with an understanding, because if you know, under the Benami Transaction Act, you can invest in a property in the name of your wife and an unmarried daughter. That transaction could be considered to be a valid one. So maybe it was an understanding which was there that it would be in the son's name or the daughter's name, that is Sheena's name, with an understanding that it would come back. Somewhere that calculation misfired. Somewhere people either became very assertive of their rights, or they became very clear that they wanted to retain what their assets were, and that is where the conflict arose, that this is my money. Because as I said in one of the interviews that it was here, that it was while she was being strangulated by Indrani, that is what the case says. Well, she was saying, "Oh, is this what you wanted, a flat? You wanted a 3-bedroom apartment?" So something of that sort has also come out in the CBI, charge sheet or
it
the
has,
investigation.
But Mrinalini, it has. But that also does sound strange, though, does it not? Because again, when we're talking of people who have hundreds of thousands of crores and
can't be just
are
about a flat.
probably owners of properties.
No, that's just an indication. It's much more than that.
Exactly.
Flat is just an indication.
It has to be.
Tina, flat is just one indication, maybe a tip of the iceberg. One really doesn't know. Yeah. But the point here is that probably that must be one of the reasons, because otherwise, whether Rahul is with Sheena or not with Sheena, why should it really matter? Why should it really matter? Yes, I think Siddharth has a point.
I tell you,
Siddharth.
The issue here is Rahul was proximate to Sheena. Right. Sheena had been done away with. So therefore, the attempt was to try and put the matter to a close. If Rahul or others would have kept inquiring into the matter, the issue may have got raked up and opened up. And the desire to throw people off the scent, the desire to close the matter, to ensure that it's not investigated or looked into, that shows a guilty mind. That is an incriminating circumstance, and I frankly think that may be enough. You don't really need to look at whether the angle was the money angle, not that. It would be great if that could come out in the investigation. If it already has not come out, but even if it does not, this, in my view, may be, along with the other circumstances, enough to proceed further in the case.
Yeah, Shobik Badra.
Yeah.
Tina, you want to bring in Shobik? Let's just bring in Shobik Badra.
I wanted to in fact go to Shobik on exactly that, Niranjan, because again, that's an important point to make, because the issue here is that if indeed, for example, if Indrani and Peter are genuinely unaware of what has happened to Sheena, then wouldn't they naturally be also worried as to what has happened to her? If they haven't heard from her, if they don't know where she is, if of course that whole story of her being in Los Angeles is concocted because she was dead at the time. Now, normally parents, step-parents, they would be worried about somebody's disappearance. On the other hand, what we've seen, Shobik, is that there has been every attempt to just get those who are asking questions to shut up. No, stop asking questions. Don't dig further. Forget the issue. Forget Sheena. She's gone. That itself is pretty damning and incriminating, isn't it?
Yes, and the demeanor and conduct of every witness is very crucial to a trial.
Yeah. Shobik, you want to make a point? Sujay, you take it forward from there. Shobik, make a point.
I think the question of property is very important here. Like I think Mrs. Deshmukh said, that it's not merely about a flat, it's not merely about, because Sheena wouldn't have got property as a natural legal heir anyway, unless Peter was giving something to her. there was not much of property from the parental side of Indrani. So the only possibility that comes up is there are some higher stakes in place, probably something which is not coming in light till now, but which is also strange because there has been rumors about a lot of money being taken out of India by Peter and Indrani, but after investigation for so long, I don't think CBI has shed any light on that. So if that's something which is relevant, that should have come out in the investigation.
Absolutely. And for a man who told Times Now, when he spoke to Arnab, he said, I am as horrified as you. He said, I am as horrified as you are, probably are. I am as horrified as you probably are, and as anyone else who has been hearing and reading about this. Contrast this to what we started the news hour with this evening. Let's put out that statement by Shamvar Rai, the driver of Indrani and Peter Mukherjee. That statement to the CBI is the crux of the supplementary charge sheet. A man who was driving the car while Indrani was seated behind him, Indrani called Peter Mukherjee several times saying, we found the spot, we found the place. We found a good place for Sheena and Mikhail. Remember, the plot was much bigger. Sheena and Mikhail, he said in a statement to CBI. So if anybody is watching this, and to all our panelists who've been tracking the story, I think I don't know, Mrinalini, when the story broke, there were still people who were batting for Peter Mukherjee. There were a lot of people, in fact, even in the previous debate, there were people who were arguing, sort of, giving the other point of view. But today you look at the details, I think those voices have reduced
considerably, yes. And I think it is, I mean, as days go by and investigation comes out and CBI is doing a good job, I believe, I think the truth is going to be out, and I think, again, as I said, the writing is on the wall, and it's going to be really, really, hopefully a good trial, and prosecution's hands will be strengthened with everything that is done.
And to add to what Benalini is saying, look, people should not just for the sake of say things. As if we are all responsible people, we are all parents. And when we see something like this happening to a 24-year-old who has been killed in cold blood, just for the sake of making some statements on TV, sensational statement, they should not make. They should be responsible people. And they should accept the fact that these things happen in life. Muscle and money power does make people go crazy and do all kinds of things and plan murders. And therefore, they should see to it that everything that aids the prosecution and in the quest to seek justice and the truth, they should even contribute as citizens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the story is not the driver. The story is not the driver. The story is Peter Mukherjee, and his game is over.
Yeah, exactly. Niranjan, like you said, yes, the driver's statement, Mikhail's statement, all these bits of evidence come together. But the story is about Indrani and Peter Mukherjee, and it is now becoming more and more increasingly obvious that Peter Mukherjee was involved, as we have told you from day one, right from the start, to the point where he was probably being consulted on the phone when the recce for the spot where the body would be disposed of was being done. Thank you all very much for joining us on this special edition of the News Hour.